Greetings, and welcome to my channel, The Cheating Diaries, where love and passion combined to create a calming environment. Although Derek has always been incredibly kind, there have been difficult times when his baseball coach benched him for an entire season because he missed too many practices to help me around the house. One such instance occurred when Derek stormed into the kitchen throwing his bag on the floor, his face clouded with frustration. "It's not fair," he yelled at me so hard, "and it's never enough." I let him vent for a moment, my own heart aching for him, before responding. "Life's not always fair, Derek. You can only control your reaction. And sometimes, that's enough to put things right, so you shouldn't let it make you bitter," I replied. Gently that night, I saw him compose an email to his coach, apologizing and explaining himself. But he only nodded his wrath, waning as he dropped into a chair the next morning. The coach called to say Derek was welcome back on the team. Dirk's face lit up, with a grin so wide it nearly broke my heart. Now looking at him standing, tall in our little kitchen making a sandwich with ease, something I taught him, of course I can't help but feel proud. "You've really come a long way, Keto," I say, leaning against the counter. He looks up at me with that crooked smile, the one that still holds a bit of that boyish charm despite his broad shoulders and newfound confidence. "It's because I have the best teacher here," plies, and in that moment I realized that while I've taught Derek the ins and outs of life, how to tie his shoes, win over a girl, or stand up for what he believes, and he's taught me just as much. He's taught me resilience, patience, and that even when life doesn't go according to plan, it can still be beautiful. In its own messy, unpredictable way, we've come this far together, Derek and I. And though I know he's about to carve his own path, stepping into a future where I won't always be by his side, I also know that the bond we've built will keep us steady no matter where life leads. For the last 20 minutes, every few seconds, Derek's sneakers squeaked on the wooden floor. As he paced the living room, he would grumble something under his breath as he looked at his phone, and then stuffed it back in his pocket as he ran, his hand through his hair for the 6th time, making it stand up in all directions. Derek. I watched him from the kitchen, trying not to laugh after a while. I put down my mug and phoned you. "We'll create a groove in the floor if you continue doing this." With a look of humiliation and exasperation on his face, he stopped pacing and faced me. "Mama needs some guidance." Derek had been asking me for guidance since he was old enough to do so this wasn't new. But the way he said it now, his voice softer and more unsure, made me know that this wasn't about fixing anything, or school sports, okay. This was different. I pulled out a chair from the kitchen table and motioned for him to have a seat. "What are you thinking about?" After a brief moment of hesitation, he sank into the chair across from me and leaned forward. Putting his elbows on his knees, he played with his watch's strap. "It has to do with Anna," a lovely girl with silky brown hair and a giggle that brightened Dirk's entire face. She had visited him several times. She stole looks at him when she thought no one was looking, and I saw how he gazed at her as if she were the only person in the room. Young love it was, unlike anything else. "So what about Nancy Evan?" Though I suspected I already knew the answer, I inquired, politely rubbing the back of his neck. He let out a sigh. "I don't know," he responded. Things are getting more serious. At the conclusion, he stood up a little as though he wasn't really sure what he was saying. I cocked my head, waiting for him to continue. We had just shared a kiss, and he hurried to it that his cheeks were flushed red, but I believe she wanted to continue. So it was all right, I said, maintaining a neutral attitude. "What are your thoughts about that?" "I'm not sure," he said, his voice almost audible, above a whisper. He hid his face in his hands, saying, "I really like her, but I don't want to ruin things, and I don't know what I'm doing. This is so humiliating. My God." "Derek, it's not shameful," I said. "Everyone is anxious. The first time, therefore it's okay. To reach across the table and stroke his arm. He gave me a quick glimpse beneath his fingers. You won't advise me to speak with Dad about this, will you? My mouth's corner quirked. Do you want me to? He gave a short shake of his head. Dad would probably simply urge me to read a book, or something, no harm intended there. Ality of what he said made me laugh. A bit intimacy was something Lewis approached as a scientific endeavor, and he had always felt more at ease discussing abstract concepts than discussing feelings? I said carefully, selecting my words that if Derek was to get any instruction, it would have to come from me. He nodded, his face grave. If you truly want to know, I'll tell you, but only if you're sure you're ready to hear it. I'd want to know, Mom. He was no longer my little kid who needed me to read to him or tie his shoes, and the way he stated it with such assurance made my heart ache a little. I don't want to ruin things with her because she's unique. Stories for bedtime, I felt both proud and resentful of how far we had come, as a young guy attempting to understand the intricacies of love. Okay, with my hands folded on the table, I said, first and foremost, it's critical that you both understand one another. Derek, speak with her, don't jump into something because you believe it's what she wants instead. Wait until she feels ready. He took it all in and nodded. Second, communication is essential. I went on, ask her. If something seems strange, if you're not sure, discuss it. His brow wrinkled. But what if I say or do something wrong? Intimacy is more than simply physical. It's about trust and knowing one another. You will inevitably make mistakes. And that's all right, I murmured softly. Nobody ever does anything flawlessly the first, second, or third time. It's important that you listen to her and show her respect. Tell her if you're anxious. She'll value your candor. His shoulders relaxed slightly as he let out breath, and Derek, I have incorporated a serious tone. Be careful to use caution. His cheeks wreathing once again. He interjected abruptly. Do you require me to have already purchased some? I grinned, glad he had foresight. Good, that's crucial. For a while, we sat in quiet as the conversation's weight settled. Between us then, with thankful eyes, Derek glanced up at me. Thank you, Mom, for not making this strange when Dirk departed. For his date with Nancy that evening. I waited by the window watching him jog to his vehicle. He glanced back once and gave me a fleeting look. I chuckled and reached over to ruffle his hair. Because it's my responsibility to make sure you're ready for the big stuff, even if it's a bit awkward. I waved back my heart, which was filled with an odd variety of feelings as he drove out to meet Nancy. I realized that there was one thing I couldn't teach him: how to let goof. My little child, I had taught him all he needed to know, including how to love, respect, and confront the world with courage and kindness. I recommended theory in part to calm both his and my anxiety after his date with Nancy. Derek had been so nervous that it was difficult to determine if he was overanalyzing the evening or whether the kiss had given him a deeper, fresher sensation. I watched him as if the sentiments I had suppressed behind layers of duty and routine had been awakened tonight. How about we go out to dinner? I answered nonchalantly, hoping that my tone wouldn't reveal the little rumble in my chest. Something pleasant, and perhaps we can go for a walk. Afterwards, we ended up at the small Italian restaurant downtown, a koi intimate setting with soft lighting, and the soft hum of conversations all around. As he hesitated, obviously surprised, but I replied with a smile that I hoped seemed natural and easy, saying that fresh air might help you clear your mind as we waited for our meal. I leaned forward and rested my chin on my palm. Derek appeared more calm here. His shoulders had relaxed and the furrow between his brows had started to level out. You've been silent since your date. Was it all you wanted? He paused and ran a hand through his hair. A nervous habit. That was fine. Nani is great, you know. But he trailed off, staring down at his glass of water. I gently prodded him and she kissed me. His voice was hardly audible, and I felt as though I wasn't there enough. Derek, I delicately touched his hand as I reached across the table. I think you're overanalyzing things. Kisses are only seconds, they don't have a guidebook, feel them, instead of dissecting them at that moment. He gazed at me, his eyes probing mine for answers I wasn't certain I could provide. Does it operate that way? You simply sense it. Derek started hanging around more. He always appeared to be close by, finding little ways to bridge the gaps between us, whether I was reading on the sofa or in the kitchen, leafing through recipes. I initially convinced myself that it was normal. He had experienced a difficult period with Nancy, and I was his safe haven, the one he could confide in, without worrying about being judged. After all, I had always supported him, hadn't I? But there was something fresh about the easiness between us. I was working on the backyard garden one afternoon when I noticed him standing on the porch watching me. His eyes were thoughtful and steady, as if he was trying to remember the moment I asked him, "What are you looking at?" as I playfully brushed the dirt off my hands, and he replied with a slight smile that tugged at his lips. I was shocked by how candid his response was. I waved him away, while chuckling quietly, "Come assist me. With them, they will then refrain from planting themselves." We worked side by side, our hands occasionally touching. As we put the flowers in tidy rows, he joined me, squatting next to me in the dirt. Every contact gave me a tiny shock, a reminder of how conscious I had grown of him. Not as my kid, but as a person, approaching maturity. Negotiating the complicated as he patted the dirt around. A marigold, I interrupted the stillness. To say, "Waters of identity and connection, you're good at this." In response, he said, a kind yet kind manner, "I might have to make you my gardening partner anytime. I enjoy hanging out with you." I looked at him, and for a little moment our eyes locked. There was something in his eyes that was unsaid, but profoundly meaningful. I instantly averted my stare to concentrate on the flower in front of me as the days went by. Jerk's presence became a regular occurrence. We cooked together, went for walks along the waterfront, and watched old movies late into the night. He was observant in a way that surprised me by noticing little details about me, such as how I hummed when I was lost in thought, or how I preferred my tea with a little honey one. Evening, as the sun was setting in a wash of golden pink, he said, "You make things easy." I smiled, and he said, looking at me, "With you, I don't have to try so hard. I can just be myself." His words hit me harder than I was prepared for, so I swallowed hard while maintaining a light tone. He nodded, but remained silent. His face aloof as he gazed at the horizon. The quiet between us was cozy, yet heavy, with something I couldn't quite place my finger on. Describe how I sprawled out on the couch one evening, after a particularly demanding day, and allowed the calm of the house to envelope me. Derek emerged from the doorway with his hair a little unkempt and a subtle soapy smell. "Hello," he murmured quietly. "Would you mind if I joined you?" "Naturally not," I said, patting the area next to me. As soon as he took a seat, I saw that he was sitting closer than normal. I sensed his warmth and the steady cadence of his breathing. We sat in quiet for a time, with the TV's soft hum being the only sound. He said abruptly, scarcely raising his voice above a whisper, "Leah." I looked at him, and the way he said my name made my heart race for no apparent reason. "What is it?" He paused, looking down at his hands. "I'm not sure how to put this without making it seem strange." I whispered softly, "Just say it." He glanced up at me before looking into my eyes. "Real sentiments, not the type I'm expected to have. I believe I have 4. My breath paused as the words lingered in the air like a weight between us, and for a brief, Derek. I wasn't sure how to react. With a shaky voice, I started. "You don't understand. Feeling connected to someone who has always supported you is common, but it's not a sign of uncertainty." His voice was strong as he interrupted. "I understand how I feel despite my best efforts. I am unable to ignore it. It's different, simple, and right to be with you." My chest was thumping with my heart. Suddenly, the boundaries I had so meticulously erected between us became hazy. I stumbled, we can't. But I couldn't force myself to step back even as I said it. His voice broke as headed. I know it's not. Right. But I had tell you we simply stared at one another. For a while, the air between us brimming with feelings too complicated to describe, and then seemed attracted by an unseen force. He leaned in and kissed me. I withdrew, my thoughts racing. It was so gentle, so hesitant that I was out of breath. We can't. Derek, this is not possible. I apologize. He said, his expression, a combination of regret and desire. I didn't intend to. I silenced him by putting a hand on his arm. This is a complex situation. I don't want to lose what we have, but we must exercise caution. He looked into my eyes as he nodded. I also. The recollection of his kiss kept coming back to me as I lay. Awake in bed that night, I couldn't deny the quiet excitement it had evoked in bed, even though I promised myself it couldn't happen again. It was a moment that had altered everything. His kisses playing over and over in my head. Everything had changed in that instant, and even though I told myself it couldn't happen again, I couldn't deny the subliminal joy. It had given me Dirk's sentiments were now open, and no matter what happened next, it would be difficult to undo the line we had already passed. I was confident that our relationship had changed irreparably, and that there was no turning back.